It's pretty incredible when you think about it. We're going to trace a direct line from one single top-secret U.S. drone that was lost over Iran way back in 2011 to the drone attacks that are all over the news in Ukraine and the Red Sea right now. This is the wild story of how one piece of captured tech basically cloned itself into a global threat. So it all starts right here. Picture this. It's 2011, and the United States loses one of its most secretive, most advanced pieces of military gear over hostile territory. Just one. I mean, sure, it was embarrassing, no doubt. But in the grand scheme of things, it seemed like a survivable loss. One drone. Not exactly a catastrophe, right?
But how did that one loss, that single incident, lead to the kind of chaos we're seeing in the headlines today? What on earth is the connection between a drone that just vanished over a decade ago and the swarm of attacks happening across the globe right now? And here it is. This is that direct ripple effect. The brutal drone warfare hammering Ukrainian cities, the attacks that are basically paralyzing shipping in the Red Sea, and this frantic, multi-billion-dollar race to build new defenses. All of it, every single bit, traces its DNA right back to that one event in 2011. This is the story of that drone.
Okay, so let's rewind. Let's go back to where this whole thing kicked off. The date is December 4th, 2011. The CIA is flying a mission deep inside Iran, and they're using an aircraft so secret it had this spooky nickname, the Beast of Kandahar. And then, it just disappeared from their screens. Vanished.
And this was the prize, the RQ-170 Sentinel. Just look at that design. It's a flying wing, a lot like the B-2 stealth bomber, and it was built by Lockheed Martin's legendary Skunk Works, the same folks behind some of the most advanced aircraft ever made. This thing was designed to be a ghost, totally invisible to radar.
Now, it's really, really important to understand what this machine was for. The RQ-170 wasn't some attack drone loaded with missiles. The RQ in its name stands for reconnaissance. It was a spy, a high-tech ghost packed with super-sensitive sensors built to fly over places like Iran's nuclear facilities without anyone ever knowing it was there. So losing it wasn't just about losing the hardware, it was a catastrophic intelligence breach. And then came the absolute shocker. A few days after it went missing, Iranian television broadcast these images. And there it was, the top-secret ghost drone looking almost perfect, barely a scratch on it. You had Iranian generals posing next to it like a trophy. And here's the kicker. They didn't claim they shot it down, they claimed they hijacked it.
And that just kicked off this huge mystery. How in the world did they do it? The US came out and suggested that it was probably just a simple malfunction, but, I mean, look at it. The drone was so intact, that story was pretty hard to swallow. So how did a technological superpower like the US just lose control of its prized invisible spy plane?
Well, this led to two totally different stories. On one side, you have Iran's claim of an electronic ambush. They said first we jammed its command link, which forced the drone into its autopilot return home mode. Then, and this is the genius part if it's true, they used a sophisticated attack called GPS spoofing to feed it fake coordinates. They basically tricked the drone into thinking it was landing safely back at its base in Afghanistan when it was actually touching down in Iran. Now, the US told a completely different story. They stuck to the malfunction theory, saying the drone crashed and Iran just glued the pieces back together for a propaganda photo. They argued its military-grade inertial navigation system, its INS, should have prevented GPS spoofing. To this day, nobody really knows the full truth.
But look, whether it was a brilliant hack or a simple malfunction, at the end of the day, the result was exactly the same. Iran now had its hands on a masterclass in American stealth and drone technology. And the next phase of this story wasn't about propaganda anymore. It was about replication.
You can bet that people back in Washington understood the danger immediately. Former Vice President Dick Cheney was pretty blunt about it. He argued that the U.S. should have launched an airstrike to destroy the wreckage, to make absolutely sure Iran could never get its hands on that tech. But that strike never happened. The scale of this loss was just immense. It wasn't just about one plane. This analogy really hits it home. It was like an enemy getting your phone, your passcode, and your cloud backup all at once. They got the blueprints, the software, the special materials, the entire playbook. For Iran, it was a cheat code to building a modern drone industry from scratch. And Iran? They didn't waste a second. I mean, they moved incredibly fast. Just 3 years after the capture, in 2014, they're showing off a direct copy. 2 years after that, they've already got an armed version. And by 2018,
That armed copy was good enough to fly deep into Israeli airspace, dodging Patriot missile batteries before an Apache helicopter had to take it down at close range. The technology wasn't just a copy anymore. It was a proven dangerous threat.
And the key here is that Iran didn't just build one drone, they built an entire ecosystem. So now let's connect all of this history right back to the global conflicts that are raging today. So here's basically how the whole proliferation pipeline worked. Step 1. The US loses one super expensive boutique drone. Step 2. Iran reverse engineers it, which lets them skip like decades of painful research and development. Step 3. This lets them mass produce not just high-end copies, but also way cheaper, simpler, expendable attack drones, like the Shaheds we hear so much about. One analyst perfectly called it a Costco-sized pallet of knockoffs. And finally, Step 4. They start shipping these drones and the designs to their allies and proxies all over the world.
And this, right here, has created a massive, massive strategic problem. You now have a $20,000 drone, which, remember, traces its family tree back to that captured RQ-170, being used to attack a billion-dollar warship, and that warship has to fire a multi-million-dollar missile to shoot it down. You simply cannot win that economic fight. It's the very definition of asymmetrical warfare, and it is a direct result of that one drone loss back in 2011.
So we end up right back where we started, with a single event that completely reshaped the modern battlefield. It proved that in today's world, losing a piece of technology isn't just an intelligence failure anymore. It's like giving your adversary the factory to build their own army. And it leaves us with this really critical question for the future. When your most advanced weapons can be hacked, captured, and then mass-produced, how do you stop them from becoming tomorrow's biggest threat?